to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. I'm your host, Josh, and this is a podcast where we love chatting about Star Wars. This week we got a very important list. Actually, we all have a very important list. Our co-host Blake is joining us this week, and we're talking about the 5 most influential characters. And we're going into this blind. I've made a list, he's made a list, and we'll compare notes, talk about that, and get into some Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My sister has it.
Leia!
Luke, I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Hit the target hard! Give it everything you got! Destroy the Sith.
We must.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
I need to finish what Luke started.
We go together.
Freeze! Don't move!
Look at this.
Great shot, kid! That was 1 in a million!
Hello there.
The rebellion is reborn today, and I will not be the last Jedi.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
That right there is the launch trailer for Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which came out not only 2 days ago, and it's racking up the sales. It's doing well. The character packs are out. The deluxe edition is in my Steam library, and it's been a good time. So we welcome back to the show, Blake.
Thanks. Good to be here as always. Ready for an exciting chat after we just finished playing several hours of Star Wars, Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, episode 2. I nailed out the Phantom Menace the other day, and it's we may as well just get right in with that just to start, seeing as it's like fresh on our brain here. What did you think of it?
I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I played the old ones back in the day. You can tell everything's a lot smoother, a lot crisper. They've, as you pointed out, they kind of changed some of the gameplay, which is surprising because they've been so consistent with that for so long now. It's almost more in light of what they did with the Lord of the Rings games.
Right, yeah. So I think was it The Hobbit or was it Lord of the Rings, the Lego ones that they invented this open world system?
I think it was Lord of the Rings. I believe they did that before The Hobbit.
Okay, yeah, so...
I think The Hobbit, the trilogy wasn't done yet at the time.
What's neat about this game is that so right now I've only just played the first 2 episodes, and you've played the second one with me on co-op. And what's neat is that each episode, I assume it's consistently now for 2, where it's been, I guess it's 5 chapters, right? And there's multiple different, the mini kit thing is back. Kyber bricks, you got to collect to unlock characters and ships and stuff for free play options. And you go through an episode. It took like 3 hours to get through like one episode.
Yeah, I think that's about right. We started about 3 hours ago. That's about right.
Yeah, so it's really well, like, time management wise. I think someone can sit down for 3 hours, play a video game, and be done with their time on the TV. And
it makes sense. And that's just playing through the story. That's not doing any of the side stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And the story is just so Lego-fied. It's great to see. At this point, for those of us fans that have been out there and seen the movie so many times, to the point where we know when they're making a joke about something, we know where they're going off script and making their own kind of version of the scene or whatever. Like we spent, what was it, like 7 or 8 minutes in Dex's diner just serving people their food.
Yeah, that must have been an outtake where Obi-Wan has to be a waiter and help out Dex before he can get his answers.
I think we should do a take where you just give someone their food.
Just give this man a sandwich.
Yeah. Go and get that Jawa juice over there and just give it to that guy.
It's got to be outtake, man. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a fun game, and what I love about it so much, I think I was telling you about this earlier, is in the Phantom Menace you get these areas where you're not necessarily in a story section of the movie. You're in like this communal space that connects these different segments of the story. So you can take, like, on the, I think it's the one of the districts in Coruscant, the Senate district or whatever, or the financial district or whatever it's called. And you can take taxis, like, to just different sections. It's just this huge, like, open space. And, it's an area in which you can get mini kits. You find mini kits there and Kyber bricks and, and on more unlockables and little side missions and stuff like that. And so,
what is a mini kit?
A mini kit, yeah. So for those of you guys who maybe have maybe rusty on the Lego games, the mini kits are those little white floating things with the green and red light on it. And if you collect all 5 of them, they make like a mini ship and that ship then translates into, I think, an unlockable ship that you can later play as in free roam or whatever. So there's always 5 mini kits in every level. There's maybe, I think is it 7 or 6 Kyber bricks, which are these blue transparent floaty bricks, and you usually have to solve a puzzle to get those, or knock out a bunch of destroyable objects to get those, kind of thing. And then there's some objectives per level as well, which you can, I think there's 3, and if you get each one of those 3, you unlock more stuff. So there's so much replayability about this game. Like, we kind of like tried to express our way through the story, but if someone were to want to go back and play through it again, just to 100% every level, unlock all the stuff, it's fun to do it again. And then you get to play as different characters, and it's not the same thing over and over. You can play as Santa Claus C-3PO for all, like, and get places where because you can separate your body from your torso and all this stuff.
I'm just waiting for Max Rebo. I'm never going to play anything else again.
I've got Mr. Bones unlocked.
What?
Yeah.
They added Mr. Bones?
Mr. Bones is a playable character. Yeah.
I'm actually very impressed by that. Is it just a regular B1 battle droid?
Hey, he looks like Mr. Bones. He looks like Mr. Bones. He's got the print on him and everything. It's pretty sweet.
That's crazy. Man, you didn't show me him. What the heck?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, Max Rebo is also a playable character. You mentioned Dex, or even Dooku in his bath attire.
Will they do what is it, Ponkrell?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I mean, the thing about this game is there's over 300 playable characters right now, and as far as the stories go, it's in the story mode. You stick pretty close to the general idea of the story, but from the film. But if you go in galactic free play mode or just free play in the individual episodes, I'm sure you can choose whatever character you've got unlocked. You can buy new characters as well if you don't unlock them right away. And there's about 17 codes floating around the internet right now for anyone who wants to unlock Shmi and, Santa 3PO and Poe Dameron in a Christmas sweater and this and that. There's like a bunch of them. There's a Gonk droid, Christmas Gonk droid. I think Ayla Akira. Like there's like 17 random. Mr. Bones was one of them where you just type in a code and you just get him.
Wasn't one Din Djarin?
Yeah, actually, well, I have the Mandalorian because I got the deluxe edition. So
that's fine.
Yeah, so I've got the character pack out of the gate for Solo, Mandalorian, and the Bad Batch. So
the spin-off movies, except Rogue One for some reason.
Oh, so that's not a separate character pack, but I know for a fact that there are some Rogue One characters in the collective. Like they've basically thrown in. They've had so many years to make this game now. They've thrown in so much stuff. Like, any game where you can play as one of 300 plus minifigures is insane. Because I think the last Lego game that I played, which had a lot of options for playing as minifigures, was Lego Marvel Superheroes. And I don't even know what the count was on that one, but it was crazy. Like you could play as it seemed like almost any comic book Marvel character that was out there, because it's not based on the films. It's sort of. It's kind of.
There's limited amounts of heroes in the movies.
Yeah, so they had the Lego Marvel Avengers, which is based on the films, and then they have the Lego Marvel Superheroes, which is based on the comic universe. So they've got all their minifigures are based on like the comic designs and not the cinematic universe designs.
Things like Squirrel Girl or whatever.
Yeah, and all the Spider-Man villains are in their classic kind of looking attire. Like Shocker still has his yellow star lightning bolt face and all that. Daredevil's got the classic. Let me ask you this. DD on his chest.
Will I be able to play as Jar Jar's girlfriend
from the Clone Wars?
That's right.
I don't know, actually. I mean, should we pull up a list here?
Maybe it's worth it. There's this many.
What's funny is I'm sure someone out there is 100% completed the game already. I mean, there's people like that.
100%.
I'm sure.
How long did it come out?
Day 3. Well, it's like it's been out for 3 days now. So
3 days.
But I'm sure there's somebody out there that's gone that far.
Not sleeping.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. That's all I'm saying. But the list, I think it's been a public thing. They've released this list, so it's easy to find. I'm looking at one. I'm looking at one right now. Let me just send it to you here, so we're on the same page. Okay, here we go. There we are. Just popping it. There we go. Here's the link.
All right, I got it.
Okay, so we got characters from any obvious character from the Skywalker saga. We got villains.
You can play as a Porg.
Yeah, you can play as a Porg. I'm looking at Cassian Andor right here and Chirrut Imwe. So yeah, Rogue One is present. Baze Malibu is in there. I'm sure Jyn Erso's in the list as well. Yep, there she is. IG-11. Moff Gideon, there's
Ahsoka,
yep. Tobias Beckett from Solo, Wrecker from Bad Batch, young Chewbacca, young Han Solo, young Lando.
Plays Grogu. Just waddle around.
Enfys Nest, Cara Dune, Skiff Guard, Kylo Ren, Jango Fett. There's so many. There's so many. It's insane. What I love about this game. I
don't see Jar Jar's girlfriend on here.
So when I first got the game, if people watch, if you're here for the other review, we might as well dish it out. So you boot up the game, you get the main menu screen, and right away you get the option of starting at either episode 1, 4, or 7. And you have to play one of those episodes to get the next one in the trilogy. Or you can just start from episode 1 and just kind of play through, in order of just chronologically, or you can go release or whatever. But it kind of gives you the option of starting at whichever beginning of whichever trilogy you want to start as. And what was interesting is I played through the Phantom Menace day 1. And on my Steam library, I noticed that a friend of mine had played through A New Hope first, because that is the default. When you just go into the game, that's the default one that it's just sitting on the turntable. So most people might just mash A and just go right into that one. But you can actually choose, right, between 1, 4, and 7. And what I noticed is in Steam, it keeps track of people's general awards and stuff like that. So I saw that the majority of people, it was like 30-something% of players had completed episode 1. This was 2 days ago. And only 3 or less than 10% of people had completed A New Hope, which was very interesting. And I thought that was, I was curious, because the ongoing debate remains, and it'll go throughout history. How do you watch the Star Wars movies, especially now when there's so many, right? Like, do you do it in chronological order? Do you do it in release? And
unfortunately, I think the machete order might finally be dead.
Yeah, machete order is not even possible anymore. I mean, not that was I was never a fan of machete order, because that chops out Phantom Menace, and it's one of my favorite movies.
It removes Phantom Menace altogether.
Yeah, but
for a while before you showed me the light, I was watching a fan edited version that combines Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones all together into one movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for chronological.
Revenge of the Sith too.
Chronological is kind of the way I usually go, I've usually I've usually mentioned to people when I say chronological, a lot of people right away are like, oh well, why not do it in release? And I usually bring up two things when I say that, and this is probably not going to matter at all when it comes to playing Lego games, but just while the subject is at hand. I usually bring up two things. Number one is episode 4 was renamed as episode 4 before even episode 5 came out. It was like A New Hope hit the theaters. It was just Star Wars at the time. And then before episode 5 came out, boom, it was sub-labeled as episode 4 A New Hope and re-released in the theaters. And then Empire, which episode 5 came out with those titles, right? So even way back then, George was like, I'm going to do these movies, and I intended this one to be the middle of my story. And I want people to know where the middle is and where the first one's going to be. And then the second thing I usually bring up is, most people want to save that big surprise of like Luke and Vader's father. That's just pop culture now. I don't think there's a soul on this planet that doesn't know that Anakin is Darth Vader anymore. The secret's out there. But I usually like to say chronological for me is kind of like this big surprise of like this prophesized chosen one turn to the dark side, and that for me is kind of like the big turning point in the Skywalker saga, because as Lucas later said, like ultimately those first 6 movies are generally about the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. And that actually plays a little bit into our subject today with the top 5 most influential characters. But what's your take on that? What's your take on release order and chronological?
The only way I would watch release order is if I'm just skipping the prequels, then I watched it, or I just want to watch the original trilogy. At this point, there's so many movies, you have to just do chronological. Even if you're just doing the actual saga, not any of the spin-offs.
Yeah.
Because basically the moment that the sequels were a thing, release order just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it went out the window. Yeah.
Yeah,
actually, for me it was the moment Rogue One came out. That was the moment that release order went out the window, because that means that someone's starting with episode 4, going through the original trilogy, watching the prequels, and then watching Rogue One. And it just, to me, I was like, I don't know.
You'd have to skip it and then watch it afterwards.
I mean,
it's like the only option.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And like watching Rogue One back to back with A New Hope is a pretty satisfying thing to do. I've done it once or twice, and it's like, it feels so good. It's like part 1 and part 2.
You could argue the same thing between episode 7 and episode 8.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, totally. The only difference is one of them
the same, right?
Yeah. I was about to say the only difference is one of them just goes and does like a complete 180.
Yeah. But technically, it's supposed to be the same thing.
Yeah. You're right. So yeah, I mean, it's a good game. I hope people have been enjoying it, and it's yeah. I mean, I've got nothing but good things to say about it. I recommend it. If anyone's thinking about, oh, should I get it? Just get it. It's good. It's good.
It's out on all consoles too, isn't it?
Oh, it's on everything. You can buy everything from Switch to Xbox, PlayStation, PC. I think that's all of them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Is it on Nintendo?
Yeah, on Switch. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's a physical deluxe version, which I believe sold out like day one, kind of thing. And of course, naturally in here, I don't even know if we got it up here in Canada, but you can get like this limited edition Luke Skywalker with a blue milk mustache.
Oh gosh.
But it's episode 4 Luke. So it's not even like episode 8 Luke. It's like young Luke with the blonde hair, the tunic, the beige trousers. And he's got this milk box in his hand, and he's got a blue milk mustache on his face.
I wonder what the resale is going to be like for that.
My guess is depending on how many they made, it could actually be quite valuable at some point. But these limited edition Lego figures, it's crazy. There's a store not far from where I live where people can trade in some things, get some store credit, all that stuff.
Swap meet.
Yeah, and no, I've mentioned it before on the podcast. It's called Toy Traders. A lot of people know, from the Vancouver area, they might know Toy Traders. Great store, one of my favorite places to go. And there was a guy that came in. There's a coworker of mine that told me this. He was in line to return some stuff or to trade in some stuff, and he was talking to a guy who was picking up a check for nearly $20,000.
What?
Yeah. And he's like, what did you trade in? And this guy apparently traded in a crap ton of Lego minifigures, like tons of them.
We talking like
Lego
10
minifigures.
or 15?
No, we're talking like hundreds, or if not, close to 1,000 of these things. Like just like
could you imagine being the guy going through all those minifigures and trying to find the value?
Yeah, you had to leave them there for a couple days possibly, but he was waiting for his check. And the crazy thing is that was just cold hard cash. If he took store credit, you'd be getting like more.
What do you buy with that with store credit? Like you have to just walk out that life size, like Han Solo and Carbonite.
Yeah, no kidding, right? You walk out with that and the life size Darth Vader. But yeah, I guess that was just something that people do is investing in Lego and keeping it until it goes up in value, and then resells it later, right? It's a common thing.
Tell you what, if I had storage space, I would do that.
Yeah, I had another friend who did that, but he kept the boxes as is, right? Just fresh in the box.
There's a lot of money in that.
Yeah.
Like unopened.
The strategy is you buy 2, and then you sell the second one for basically double of what you bought it for when it reaches that point, and you basically just get your money
break
back.
Even.
Yeah, you break even. Yeah, so some people like to do that and get their money back for their Lego, but you have to be strategic as to which sets you do it for, because some of the sets that you get. I think
people don't want them.
It was like Luke's hut on the Last Jedi set. That was one of those sets where you get it for like $35, $40 or something, and then it just tanks, and you can find it on sale for like $27.99, and then it's that set that you see like 5 of them, at a place like Toy Traders. They're like,
nobody wanted it.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's also not a very interesting set. I mean, if anyone's gonna buy a hut, people want to buy like Yoda's hut or something like that. They want to buy Luke's hut.
I wonder how many people bought the Millennium Falcon Collector's Edition, thinking that's gonna happen, and they're still selling it now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's like eventually it will be worth a lot, but they've been selling it from the Lego store for what is it, like 4 years now?
Yeah.
5 years?
Yeah, they're
it's
just
a long time.
Exactly. It's sets like that which they're just such big sellers, and they make so much money that Lego just can't justify expiring that set anymore because it's just making too much money. One of the sets that I know for sure that they I don't think they did as well with, and then they expired it, was the Cloud City set, like the Bespin. It was a big giant Bespin thing. And it was a cool looking set, but I don't think anyone bought it, or not as many people bought it. And it's sets like that where the minifigures, then they don't produce it anymore. They cancel the product, all this and that. Then there's less on the market. There's less to find. Then it's like, okay, now if someone's looking for one, whoever has sitting on 2 of them or 3, major profit.
Sitting on money.
Yeah,
and
true. Additionally,
or you just
to that,
wait long enough.
Well, additionally to that is the minifigures inside that are usually worth the most amount of money, because in one of these sets, I think it was a Star Wars Rebels set. I think there's now 3 or 4 variations of Ahsoka Tano in Lego form. One of them is her as like a Padawan with the first couple seasons. Top. Yeah, the tube top and the skirt. Yeah. And then the second version is her later season outfit. Then she's got a more recently season 7 Ahsoka versus Darth Maul. That's a set you can buy right now in her blue attire. And that's another version of her. The most rare and valuable version of Ahsoka, I believe it's $150 for this one figure. And it's the Star Wars Rebels version of Ahsoka Tano. And she came with this giant ship. Like it was like a big, huge Rebel.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And it's a set that's just big.
It's like a Corellian cruiser, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's like it was used by the Rebellion or whatever. And I think it's just, people just saw that ship. It's like, well, it's big, it's expensive, it's not the Millennium Falcon. I don't want to buy it. Right? Unless you're like a hardcore Star Wars fan, like, oh yeah, Ahsoka Tano's in that set. Or I'm such a big Star Wars Rebel fan. Yeah, I'll spend $350 on that, like, of course.
You basically pay it off with just reselling Ahsoka, right? You're done.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, how do you know? Because you could buy it for that reason, and then the next like season release, there's like 4 sets of the Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's a gamble. It's always a gamble. I mean, it's Lego investing is not the most reliable way to make money, that's for sure. But I mean, it's a fun hobby. I think people, if you enjoy buying Lego, and can justify knowing which ones are going to be valuable later. And I think people who buy enough Lego probably have this like sixth sense about it, Then yeah, buy 2 or 3.
It's always cool factor, right? You need to find the middle ground between cool factor and where it's not so popular that they're just going to sell too many.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like what I was so surprised by is I really wanted a Lego Star Destroyer a number of years ago, and this is before they released the new like really high quality collector's one, and I wanted one that wasn't a playset, like one that has like high detail and stuff.
Right.
And the one I was attracted to was the 2008, I think it was, the Super Star Destroyer, like the Executor.
The Ultimate Collector Series with the plaque and all that, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it had because they'd only done that in the regular Star Destroyer, but the regular Star Destroyer was like 2001 or something. It was super old. And because this was from the Clone Wars, so it didn't seem like it was that long ago at the time. It was only like a handful of years. Like I think there's only maybe one movie out when I was shopping for this. And then all you could find it on was eBay, and it was going for $2,000.
$2,000. Oh my goodness.
$2,000.
That's crazy.
And the original release was like $130.
That's insane, Like
it's like 20 times a gain. Like that's probably, if you bought enough of that, you're doing better than the stock market.
And what's crazy about sets like that is like, is that new in box or is that used?
It's a good question. It was too long ago for me to remember. My guess is that's the in-box value.
Right. Okay. Because in-box value for one of these little $15 sets back in '99, I think there was like 3 or 4 of them. You could get Vader next to Palpatine on his throne chair.
I think I had all of them.
Yeah. You and I both have like all those ones, those little ones. And it was like when Lego Star Wars first was a thing. And this was when the re-releases came out back in the day on VHS. And Lego Star Wars was the first Lego franchised kind of thing. It's the reason why Lego Star Wars is such a big deal, which most people might not know, is because it was the first franchise that they kind of like collaborated with. And so it was it was before Lego Harry Potter, is long before any Marvel stuff or DC or various other things that they.
And on top of that, at this point in time, Lego was going out of business. They were almost completely bankrupt. And selling the Star Wars Lego like franchise toys is what saved them.
Yeah, Lego and Star Wars go way back, and back to the late '90s, and yeah, they've got a good relationship there, and I think arguably Star Wars Lego is probably the best selling Star Wars product, like toy, other than the action figures, because I know those have always been a big thing as well, but Lego Star Wars.
It makes sense. Like I didn't really buy many action figures or anything, but every year, every Christmas, I always get the biggest Lego Star Wars set I could get my parents to buy.
Yeah, exactly. It was the same for me. I mean, my dad did buy me a couple when Attack of the Clones. It was like a year or two after the movie had come out. There was an overflow of action figures in the store, I think, because he got like a crazy amount of them. And
all on sale.
Yeah, and every now and again he would leave one. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Every now and again he would leave one on my bed, and when I came home from school, every couple days. Yeah. But
what did your sister get? Did she get anything?
I have no idea. I totally forget. It was so long ago. But it was nice. It was cool. But those were the only action figures that I really. I think there was only maybe one that I bought on my own back in the day. But that was pretty much it. And eventually I traded all those in for store credit naturally, and then bought Star Wars Lego instead. Right? Eventually, that was when I kind of outgrew the action figure stuff, and I was like, playing with action figures. At that point in time, it was like a transition from having action figures and playing with them to the point of later in my life collecting. Yeah. But it was that in between period. It was like, what do I do with these? And my mom was always a big person. I was like, oh, if you don't use something, get rid of it. Right. So I think a lot of people later. A lot of people got screwed over by that back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, that's why there's so few Kenner things left. Because
dude, I had thousands of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That's exactly what happened to me. Thousands, and some of them were so rare.
Oh, I'm sure someone out there is probably kicking themselves still for throwing away like a Charizard, Pokemon first gen.
Dude, I had a Lapras first gen. Just saying. That lost same garage sales my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I'm so mad. Jeez. Like looking back, man, it's the worst.
Someone's laughing today.
Honestly, probably ended up in the garbage. It was like a small town garage sale.
Yeah. But yeah, it's Lego Star Wars. It goes way back, and so that's why this game is such a big deal. It's just it's nostalgic for those of us who also played the first and second and even the third Lego Star Wars games. Lego Star Wars 3 was the Clone Wars, and the first one, man, like I remember playing that on DS, Game Boy. It was generations of consoles ago. It's a different time now. It's a different time. Yeah. Do you have anything?
What's funny is I always played at friends' houses, but I never bought it. I eventually bought the Lord of the Rings, but I never bought the original Star Wars games. But I had the demo, the original first game demo.
PC CD-ROM?
No, it's for original Xbox.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. And I got it on the Xbox Monthly magazine.
Oh, man. Do they still make paperback?
There's a digital version. And they have like I don't even know if they do it anymore because you can just do demos on Xbox Live. But for a while there, they had codes as well.
Gotcha. Speaking of codes, some of the codes that I mentioned earlier about the 17 codes online kind of thing, some of those were released a couple within the last year or two in Lego boxes. So if you bought a Lego set, you got a code, and it was a voucher for that, like one of these minifigures that you can get in the game. Because the game was delayed.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Everyone's kind of forgot about those codes, and those Lego sets, some of them you can't even buy anymore. So I think
that's crazy.
They just so you can find them dumped online. If you don't grab them online, there's no other way to really find those codes.
Are they one-time use, or are they all the same code for all the boxes?
It's the same. It's a universal code, so it works for anyone. It's kind of like those old school Game Boy games where you had like a cheat code, but it was like quote unquote like cheat code. It wasn't really it was just
down,
like
left, right.
Yeah. It was like a code that you could just tell your buddy and he would get the same thing, right? So I think like one of the codes is shuttle or Rosher, like a Rosher tree, or I think Jabba might have been one of them. It was just they're all
These are pretty easy codes.
Yeah, they're all pretty. They're all like 6-letter things, and there's a special area in the main menu or the pause menu that you can like enter these codes and get the character or the ship that goes with that code. So there's like 16 or 17 floating out there. Make sure you get them all. Anyone who's planning to pick up the game, you know, you can unlock all those guys like right away. So might be useful. Any last minute things you want to bring up on this, or should we move on to our feature subject of the day?
Just that I played 3 hours tonight, and I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be probably buying my own Lego Star Wars game here pretty quick.
There you go. All right, guys. Yeah. So Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, episodes 1 through 9. It's all on digital, hard copy, wherever you're buying it, and it's a great game.
How long do you think till there's a Steam sale?
Oh man, brand new game. I don't see it happening until fall.
You'd be surprised.
Even at that, I think it'll probably only go down like 15%, maybe 20 tops.
Yeah, I mean, they delayed so long. They got to get their money back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like an $80 game, so it's like, you know, it's I mean, the hours you put into it though, you know, 3 hours per episode, that's not even 100%. That's just beelining it, you know, through the things basically. And if you add that up, what is that? I'm terrible at math. I'm terrible at math. 27 hours. That's 27 hours of straight campaign time, no side quests, nothing, right? And then you got all the side stuff, the free explore stuff, all that, you know, all that goodness, all the achievements and to unlock all the characters and this and that. So, you know, you definitely get your money's worth for sure. Because that's, what is that? That's basically putting in $3 per hour or so. You know, if you were to go to an arcade, pop in $3, you get an hour. It's all right. It's all right. That's usually the way I look at it. When
I'm gonna buy a used copy and save $20.
That's the spirit. Yeah, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, everyone. All right, let's transition over here to I guess the top 5 most influential characters in Star Wars. So, key element of this game is you and I have both made 2 different lists. You know, well, one list each, and we don't know who we each have on this list, right?
Correct.
And we're just gonna go top to bottom, top being the most influential, and then I don't know, I like towards the least influential. Is that how you want to do it, or do you want to just kind of give us the top 5 in no particular order?
I think no, we should do it in order. We go back and forth.
Okay. All right.
I do want to say though, and I texted you this question and you said do whatever you want. So I want to point out that you didn't specify if it's the top 5 characters who had an effect on the Star Wars saga, as in the films, or on the overall Star Wars universe.
Right. So I just said to you, decipher it as you like. You know, it's completely up to you as to how you want to decipher who the top 5 most influential is. And to some people, Star Wars is everything beyond the films. And to some people, Star Wars, when they think of top 5 most influential, it's just the pillar George Lucas films or everything, all of the Disney stuff, you know. So it could really be, there's no correct answer to this at all. It's really just, what do you think is the most top 5 influential Star Wars characters? It could even be expanded universe. I mean, if we're going with that, you know, it's.
I went for like everything.
I went for okay.
History.
All right. That's good to know. So my list is kind of purely just in the canon. But if you want for everything beyond, you know, books, you know, world's your oyster. So.
I figured that just gave us if I did that, it would give us more variety instead of like if you really focus it on the movies. There's probably 5 characters that have an effect on what really what happens.
Yeah.
So
I got to say this before we start. I mean, this was a tough list. This was a really tough list. Like I was torn with some of these placements, some of these choices, you know.
I had to cut someone that I didn't expect to have to cut.
Same here. I was like, if it was only 6.
you made the game.
Yeah.
I was gonna text last night at like 3 a.m. All right, we're gonna do 6. We're gonna do 6.
You know what's 6. Funny is like this subject. So in our podcast Discord, we have like a private kind of thread between us and the few others that kind of come on the show every now and again. And it was actually Darian who posted the subject, top 5 most influential Star Wars characters. I was like,
where is he?
That's a great. I don't know. I was like, actually, I didn't even think of it's almost 11 o'clock. He's probably in bed. But yeah, I just I thought to myself like, man, that's a good idea. That's a good subject. I'm gonna keep that in the back pocket, for a week that we're looking to do something. And other than Lego Star Wars coming out this week, which was big news, it was like, well, we need, could use something else to kind of fruiten up the episode a little bit. And
before we do the ginormous dive into, the story of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, exactly. Some more light subjects before we start digging through Obi-Wan stuff. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really good idea, and I thought it was good timing. So, with Obi-Wan around the corner, maybe his name might even pop up. So let's just start off with number 1. I'm curious. What is your number 1?
My number 1 is Wicket.
Wicket?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, all right. What's your real number 1? Wait.
Well,
hold on a second. We gotta cue the drum roll. We gotta cue the drum roll. All right.
There we go. I should have saved that Wicket joke.
All right. What's your number 1, sir? What's your number 1?
It is Palpatine, because you can't really go wrong with Palpatine. Honestly, I know it feels like a letdown, but you really can't go with anyone else. Like, the whole saga is based around the events of the galaxy that he brought onto everyone.
Yeah, no, totally. I wholeheartedly agree. I will say this. Actually, now that you've mentioned his name, I'm gonna spoil something from my own list, and I'm gonna mention he's actually at my number 4 slot.
Oh.
So yeah, but here's the thing about here's something about the top 5, is that even though we're kind of going top down in our own, like in our own opinion of like this is most important, kind of going down from there. It's so hard. Like, they all work so closely in conjunction with each other at times that it's so hard to even pick a number 1. And going down, I'm like thinking to myself, number 4 just doesn't do it for Palpatine. I should have bumped him up more, but at the same time, I'm like, well,
It's true. Yeah, I have the same thing, because like I have people that are lower, but they're only lower. Like, I think they may have had a bigger effect on the galaxy, at least the expanded universe galaxy. But it's like, they're also not really as relevant.
It's funny because, okay, all right. So Palpatine, there we go. Number 1, villain of the story. That's a great.
The Sithari.
That's a really great number 1 to have on your list. So let's okay. What do I have for number 2 here, or number 1? What's my number 1?
Drum roll.
Just gonna get a little. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it Anakin?
Oh, wait. technical issues here. Okay. My the suspense is killing. Okay. My number 1 I've got listed as Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, really? That's not what I was expecting.
Yeah. So
you're an Anakin guy through and through.
That it's funny because I was thinking about that. I was like, the chosen one. I mean, he's got to be on my list, but at the same time, would he really be anywhere without Qui-Gon?
would it be anywhere without Palpatine?
Right, exactly. So it's like you and I have picked like the two most kind of pinnacle figures in his life, from the first movie. That kind of.
You think Qui-Gon had more an effect than Obi-Wan?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Because it trickled down.
Oh yeah. I think. First and foremost, Qui-Gon was intended to be Anakin's master, right? Until he died, and Obi-Wan. He took on Anakin as an apprentice because Qui-Gon made him promise. It was like his dying wish, right? But when it's funny when Obi-Wan first gets to Tatooine and Qui-Gon's about to go back and pick up Anakin, and Obi-Wan, his first response is, "Why do I get the feeling that we're about to pick up another useless life form or something? Something really."
Same tier as Jar Jar.
Yeah. He looks at Jar Jar and he's like, "We're gonna pick someone else up like that. Like, what are we doing?" And it happens to be this boy that eventually will become like his brother, essentially. And so I thought it's just Qui-Gon's this pivotal figure because he's influenced both Obi-Wan and Anakin. He's kind of part of the reason why Anakin's freed in the first place. Because Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as you're talking.
Yeah, Obi-Wan had nothing to do with the whole pod race thing, the Watto deal, any of that stuff. Like it was all Qui-Gon. And then beyond that, Qui-Gon insisted that he was the chosen one. Like he insisted his placement, that Anakin was placed as a Jedi in the temple. He's really kind of the pinnacle Jedi that really stands out as the one who actually did it right, and like followed the Force and all that stuff. And so I was thinking to myself, the more I thought about it, I was like, he just has to be my number one, like even beyond Anakin, because without him, there almost is no Anakin. He'd just still be a slave boy.
And Qui-Gon Jinn was the first and only original Jedi to figure out on his own how to become a Force ghost.
That's right.
He taught everyone else.
The first Force
the OG, original ghost.
To maintain his identity after death. Yeah, he was the first one to make it there, and then instructed Yoda. So, in a lot of ways, yeah, he's my number one. Let's move on to our number 2 slots, shall we? Drum roll, please. Go ahead.
Anakin.
Ooh.
Anakin,
no!
Anakin! You were the chosen one! You were my brother, Anakin! I feel like he's the chosen one, right?
Yeah. What is... what more can you say, right? He's the chosen one.
And him and Palpatine are also, like, interwoven and tied together. I feel like Palpatine was like leading the way, and then Anakin just got tied up in it, but he also ended up fulfilling the prophecy of the chosen one and throwing Palpatine down the shaft.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
and
right.
There was a canon at one point where that was the end of Palpatine.
In a previous life.
That's right. The sequels are like a dream, like a distant dream.
Yeah. So I will say, I'm a bit torn as to where I put Anakin on my list, because I do have him on my list as well. I happen to actually have him as number 5, and the only reason, the only reason why he's number 5 is because I think he is the influenced. Like we're talking about a list of influential, and I'm thinking to myself, I wanted to put him as number 1. And then I started going through, and I was like, but Qui-Gon, if he didn't do this, then that wouldn't happen, and this and that, and the whole train kind of.
He started lining up all the dominoes.
Yeah, the whole bridge falls.
The ones
down.
At the front.
Yeah, exactly. And so the only reason why he's number 5, even though he changed the galaxy, like freaking balanced the Force and everything, he wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for a lot of other events and a lot of other people that had impacts in his life. But he is on my list, and I think he's also a really good option to have as number 2, because it's true. He's, without him, there's no story, right?
Yeah, and I will say, I feel like all the characters on my list had probably equal influence.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to rate them, right? Like, it's like they all kind of have that top spot.
It's limited seating.
Yeah, limited seats. Yeah, we're looking at this VIP going on. So my number 2 is drum roll. Oh, I got a new drum roll.
Wait, you won?
Obi-Wan
What did you
Kenobi.
win? Oh.
Hello there.
I feel like that's a pretty good welcoming noise for Obi-Wan. I think that's very fitting.
Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I put him as number 2. And I just think, behind Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan to me was just the second guy to have such an influence in Anakin's life. And, with him throughout all the crazy moments that brought him to where he kneeled in front of Palpatine's, stance there in the Senate chamber. And I don't know, he's just one of those characters that has such an impact on the series. And there's a good reason why this Kenobi series coming out. I keep calling it Kenobi series. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi, but there's a good reason why they're bringing Hayden back for this series to play Vader. And I think it's so perfect that they get these two back, and you almost can't have one without the other. And in the original trilogy, it's different because the dynamic has now shifted to Luke and Vader. And there's a very pivotal moment in episode 4 where that transition happens. And is when Obi-Wan dies, right? And he looks over at Luke and you can feel the torch being passed in that moment, right? And if people back in who'd seen the movie for the first time and there was no other Star Wars, it's still the same. Like that moment still got so much history behind that fight. And then you see that scene, it's like the torch is now in his hands now. He looks over at him, looks back at Vader. And this was before there was no other Star Wars, right? And so, yeah, there's definitely an importance to Obi-Wan. And I thought to myself, you can't have one without the other. I'm going to put him on the list. I'm curious about number 3 because this is a mystery to me. I don't know what yours is. You don't know what mine is. Let's cue the drum roll.
This is going to be a little bit disappointing because there's not an actual name for this character. It's just like an ambiguous description. And it is Prime Jedi.
A Prime Jedi.
Yes. And so this is canon.
All right.
And there's actually no name for it in the EU either. I would have wrote that down. But Prime Jedi is the name of the original first Jedi who founded the Jedi Order.
That's a great one to have on the list. If we're looking at the whole galaxy's history, there wouldn't be any Jedi without that first one. So yeah.
So I mean, you got to go all the way back and get the balls rolling, right? Like that's where everything started. Because if there was no Jedi, there would be no prophecies. No prophecy, there would have been no interpretation, been no Sithari, there would have been no Palpatine, there would have been no Empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to anyone out there who's wondering, like, hey, what's the Sithari? The Sith in the EU, I don't know if it's ever been mentioned in canon yet, but it's kind of been insinuated to. But the Sith have their own prophecy that one of their own will eventually rise and become like this. The
chosen one.
Yeah, the chosen one of their side of the Force kind of thing. And then the Jedi have their prophecy of the chosen one. So
what's interesting is I think, maybe I'm mistaken, I think it's the same prophecy. It's just been deciphered by Sith instead of Jedi.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah. I've got that the Book of the Jedi and the Book of Sith in this room with me right now. And I have the Vault editions. And the Sithari is mentioned in the Book of Sith, and I totally forget exactly what it says, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that they have some kind of motive behind ruling the galaxy. It's almost like they're all selfish, right? So it's not just for them about I want to be the one to destroy the Jedi and rule the galaxy forever kind of thing. What I love about the idea of the Sithari is that, and this is the reason why they should kind of reaffirm in canon, they should just kind of reaffirm that this is what drives Sidious, right? because I feel like it's almost this new level of stature, right? You know, you're a Sith Lord, one of two in the galaxy, but if you're the Sith Lord that is the Sithari, that means that you're indefinitely the guy that's going to be in charge forever, kind of thing, right?
I feel like they kind of canonized it in Rise of Skywalker when he says, "I am all the Sith."
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like they kind of insinuated. That's what I meant by insinuated. Like they loosely kind of confirmed, okay, there is something more than just killing everybody and ruling the galaxy, right? Like there's
just
some
being
kind
really,
of,
really bad.
Yeah, for him, it's a fulfilling of a life's purpose, you know, and it's not just, you know, it's a life.
Not just
purpose.
one life, but all the Sith that came before him.
Yeah, exactly, and it's all the Sith before him may have even thought that was them until their apprentice killed them, right? So for Palpatine, it's a big deal to have known that he has already survived death and figured out a way to kind of transfer his essence and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a big one. But yeah, the Prime Jedi, that's a great one to have on the list.
And I just want to add, because I said it's canon, it's canonized in the Last Jedi, actually. So there's murals of him inside of Luke's huts, inside like the Jedi temple there.
Yeah, he's also referenced in the sacred Jedi texts, which Luke kind of read and learned from, I guess, in his time on Acto or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
so,
which is apparently, which I didn't realize until I actually looked this up just today. That's the original Jedi temple, like the first Jedi temple.
Yeah, before Tython, before everything else, before Coruscant. Yeah, that's
or Jeddah.
That's the or Jeddah. Yeah, that's like the place of origin for where the Jedi began. So, pretty important one for sure. Let's see what I got on mine here. Drum roll. That was a really short one. Okay, I got Luke Skywalker, everyone. Luke Skywalker.
My original 3 was Luke. I mentioned I had to bump someone off. That's who it was.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It was the same person. Yeah.
You know what's funny is we may have swapped names as far as our number 4 then, because I had to drop a name that I was bummed about as well. But after I gave it some thought, I was like, you know what? If we're just talking about influence over like the main story, which I think I would consider as Anakin Skywalker, he's the only reason that he turns back from the dark side and fulfills the prophecy of the chosen one, right?
That's what I originally was thinking, for the same reason.
Yeah.
My 3 was Palpatine because of what he did to the galaxy, and Anakin because what he did to the galaxy and overthrew Palpatine. Then Luke is what encouraged Vader to turn back, which was what caused Palpatine to go down. That was my original thinking. Sounds like that's what you were thinking.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's why he's on my list. And that's the only reason why he's on my list. I mean, I don't even want to think about his little moment at the end of The Last Jedi. You know, that, yeah, sure. Okay. The story continued. But I mean, you know, the big thing that he did was he is the reason that Anakin is redeemed, right? And without his own son to do that, that love wouldn't have been found in his heart, and he would have just remained a villain, forever.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Under Palpatine's thumb.
Yeah. So that's why he's on my list. But let's cue the drum roll. What's your number 4?
You think I'm going to say Luke, right?
Is it Ahsoka?
It's not. It's Ajunta Paul.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Ajunta Paul.
Ajunta Paul.
Yes. So Ajunta Paul is the Jedi who caused the schism in the original Jedi Order and caused the creation of the Sith.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I was like, where have I heard that name?
Yeah. So the story is Ajunta Paul was looking at alchemy in the Force, which I think is almost similar to like what the Night Sisters do, and the rest of the Jedi Order decided that was like a dark use of the Force, and so they banned it, and that caused the Ajunta Paul to be very upset and get some people who agreed with him to leave the order. And that's when they went to Korriban, or is now renamed Moraban, and created the Sith Order.
Right. That's a yeah. So I guess he's like the other side of that coin as to why you chose the Prime Jedi as well. Right?
Exactly.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So pieces in Legends that he's shown up in has in the past. He's referenced in the Essential Guide to the Force, Jedi versus Sith. He's been mentioned in the Old Republic. He's got an indirect mention in Darth Plagueis, the novel. He's been in a bunch of source books. He's also in the Book of Sith as well, which I've got in the room here. And he had his first appearance as a ghost in Knights of the Old Republic.
That's where I met him. I didn't know that was supposed to be the original Sith, but I've done that quest 5 or 6 times.
Such a great story in that game. That story has influenced a lot as the years have gone.
It has. It's because it came out before the prequels, I believe, like right before Phantom Menace came out, and so it was interesting because it was in the light of the original trilogy, but came before the prequel era.
So it was released. When was this released? I'm just looking it up here. 2003.
Okay, looks like I'm wrong then.
So they started making it. So they started making it during the prequels, though. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have taken 6 months like they can whip out a game.
No, usually it takes minimum 3 years.
Oh yeah, back then I would imagine back then a game like this would.
Which makes sense. Then they started in '99 before Phantom Menace came out, and it's released like 2002, 2003.
Yeah, exactly. So July 15th, 2003 was the first release. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they would have worked in conjunction as episodes 2 was episode 1 and 2, I guess, were kind of in production, I guess, when they were going at it.
Because I remember when, I don't necessarily agree with this opinion, but I recall at the time when KOTOR came out and everyone was really upset that the prequels felt so different from the original trilogy, and everyone wished that it was more like KOTOR, which felt more like the original trilogy Star Wars.
Interesting. I still haven't played through that whole game.
What?
I know. I know. There's no excuse. You can even buy it on the App Store for like $12.
You can play it on your phone.
Yeah. Even my Chromebook has like compatibility for that.
They made it a touchscreen workable because it's all turn-based combat.
Yeah, exactly. And it's supposed to get Pokemon. A relaunch on PlayStation 5, so that'll be interesting. And I'm sure it'll come out eventually on other consoles as well once that exclusivity kind of comes to an end. But that'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Such a legendary game. I can see why that's been re-released. So
good, man.
Turning point of the Jedi. Having one of their own betray them and create their own cult, their own religion. Basically. Yeah. That's how it is. And now we get into the last couple names in our list. I've already kind of spoiled mine, but we don't know what yours is.
I've already forgotten.
So, okay, all right. Let's talk about yours first. All right.
No, I just did. You talked about yours.
Oh, okay. Right. Forgive me. Okay. Anakin Skywalker. Yeah. No.
Anakin.
That was your last one. The Sith guy, right?
Judapal.
Yeah, Judapal. Okay. Yeah. So my fifth name is Anakin.
I do find it funny that you put Anakin at number 4 when everyone above him affected him. You think it'd be him and then everyone else because it's all connected.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly. No, he was so my list in top down is Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Luke, Palpatine, and then Anakin Skywalker. And again, it's so tough, right? Because like I worked from the protagonist side of the things. So assuming that Palpatine didn't corrupt him, I think the most influential people in his life would have been Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Luke, because Luke would have been born regardless because of he met Padme from the get-go with Qui-Gon. He still fell in love with Padme from the get-go, right? So he would have known Padme. He would have still probably had Luke and Leia with Padme, regardless of Palpatine. So that's why I tried to like work from that angle.
Well, let me say this: if the Sith didn't have a conspiracy to kill her as a senator, would Obi-Wan Anakin ever been assigned
That's
to
true.
protect her?
That's true. Exactly. Right. I mean, that's also right. Without the whole assassination attempt, maybe Anakin would have never been reunited with
Exactly.
Padme, right. So yeah,
we don't
you're right.
know.
And
A whole
that's
nother
why
universe.
that's why this list is so tough because and that's why Palpatine has to be on my list as well because he's the one behind everything. But yeah, that's why this list is so tough because there's obviously like I mentioned there was a sixth name, and so yours was Luke, right?
Yeah, my sixth was Luke.
So
I haven't shared number 5 yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead and share your fifth, and then go top down and repeat your list just so everyone knows. Wait, gotta hit the drum roll. Wait a minute.
One more time.
Where's that drum roll? I've lost it. Hold on a second here. Here we go. Oh, nice little advertisement.
You played it too many times.
All right, everyone. Okay, what is it? Darth Revan. Really?
Yeah, right. Because he single-handedly brought an end to the Mandalorian Wars and then caused the Sith Wars.
All right, going full on galactic history on everyone.
Yeah, I figured that's most influential the whole Star Wars universe in history, right? So it's like what brought us to the galaxy as we know it when we watched the films.
That's true. Yeah, he has such a big impact on galactic history, and for anyone who needs a refresher, he's the Jedi who has the Mandalorian mask on. He's got a purple and a red lightsaber at times, and he's just overall considered one of the most kind of badass Jedi / Sith characters. He also had a redeeming story in Star Wars.
Yeah, he eventually did turn back to the light. So that guy's got a crazy story though. It was like,
oh, it's crazy.
The Mandalorians decided they're going to try to conquer everything because they saw themselves as stronger warriors, which they are. So they thought they should be ruling. And the Jedi did nothing to stop them until they were halfway across the galaxy taken over. And so Revan decided to stand up against them. He was such a good tactician that he actually pushed them back. And then he disappeared and he came back as a Sith Lord because he went beyond the Outer Rim and he came back as a Sith Lord. And this when they had the Star Forge and can create unlimited star fleets. And then he started taking over everything. And then he was turned back to a Jedi and undid the damage that he did to begin with, but also caused almost the loss of the entire Jedi Order.
Yeah, very crucial character. They're still making stories about his legacy in the Old Republic, like the MMO. The RPG MMO. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that, because I know at one point you like fight him as a boss and he's not very hard, and then he like runs away all schemy like Team Rocket from Pokemon. Like I'll be back.
Yeah, and then there was a second game. There was Knights of the Old Republic 2, and then the Old Republic is technically the sequel to KOTOR, and you
can't tell a good story with an MMO.
Yeah, you really can't. It's tough, and the space that you have to walk between locations drives me nuts. Like the progress of hours playing to progress in story, I just can't do it. It's just I've tried 2 or 3 times. Each time tried a different character. You tried to get into it. I don't know. I couldn't do it. I may have put in like over 40 hours ish tops into that game. Over the last however many years it's been out, like 10. And I don't know. It's not for me. But they're still making DLC. There was a big expansion that just came out where they released that new cinematic trailer not that long ago. It was like a couple weeks back now, and it's just it just keeps going.
Those trailers are always so cool.
Yeah, they are so much, and Revan is just one of those stories that they decided to revisit at one point and bring legacy story kind of to to the
I'm
chain.
still waiting for him to be canon. He was so close to being canon in Clone Wars.
Yeah, he was. He was nearly one of the. It was on Mortis. The son almost kind of, I guess, mimicked. Transformed himself into Revan, I guess, or there was something like that.
No, it was
or was
season,
it the Yoda? Was it the Yoda? Arc?
Yeah, that's what it is. The final season, and then Yoda meets. He meets Darth
Bane.
Darth Bane. That's right. Yeah. But Darth Bane was almost Darth Revan.
Okay, all right. There was some sort of Clone Wars appearance that, yeah. I maybe someday. I would personally love to see an animated Star Wars movie, kind of like Clone Wars, in the same style and quality that they did those last couple seasons. And just
if they just did KOTOR,
yeah,
as like a 1 or 2 season series, I think it would do really well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just take that main story and transform it into an animated series.
There's enough like storyline there; they could totally do that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So let's hear your list, top down.
Top down from number 1. Palpatine, Anakin, Prime Jedi, Ajutapal, Revan. And then Luke was 3, but he got bumped down until he wasn't on the list anymore.
Gotcha. Okay, so it seems like we both have a number 6 that it was just the on the cutting room floor kind of thing.
Yeah, but he almost wouldn't make number 6 though.
Yeah, you got a different number 6?
Yeah, I just thought of it a second ago when I was saluting me, but it was another like historical character.
Gotcha. Okay. For me, number 6 would have either been Ahsoka or Padme, for 2 reasons. Padme would have been for her political stance in the Republic because of Palpatine, his rise to power, all that stuff. She was one of the few people, along with Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and a handful of other senators that actually opposed him in the Senate at times, and didn't just kind of blindly go along with what he was saying, even though that he and her were from the same homeworld. There was definitely a rift that happened when Clone Wars kind of went down. And there's some arcs in the Clone Wars where Padme really does have something to say about Palpatine, the way he's doing things, some of the shady stuff that's going down with like the banking clan and this and that. And
the banking clan will sign your treaty.
Yeah, and so I don't. There's just there was a cutting. There's a sequence that George cut from episode 3, which was a subplot that was kind of woven through the whole film, and it just made the movie way too long. But it was a subplot of Padme, Bail, Mon Mothma, a couple other senators, and it was really just the start of the rebellion. Like it was right before the Jedi Purge happened, and they all kind of decided that they were going to do something about it. And in conjunction, Padme being a really big one, had a pivotal role in that group. So without her, the rebellion might not be the same, and therefore she was kind of one of those big important ones for me, but I just couldn't put her on, didn't fit her in that 5. And then Ahsoka, kind of the same reason, had so many big influences on Anakin, with her choice to leave the Jedi Order. This Padawan, obviously, that he didn't want from the beginning, and then he kind of forms this attachment. She walks away, and she just had such a big effect on his life, and especially when she died on Mortis, and then he had to like bring her back and everything, like using his chosen one powers and all that stuff. It was crazy, like mind blowing stuff. But she just has always been this hidden from the films, but this underlying story through the animated series and now the live action series as well, that has just had such a big impact on the story. And now as we watch The Mandalorian, I look at that and I'm like, geez, like, she was there at like so many turning points, and even the whole like Maul storyline in Clone Wars that they introduced, which like game changer for Revenge of the Sith. And there was just so many kind of reasons I could think of that I was like, geez, like without her, man, like Anakin would either have been dead or whatever, so many times over again. And
would he have turned to the dark side if she wasn't there?
Right. Yeah. Like yeah, exactly. Like her in the equation kind of also brings up a lot of things like, his trust in the Jedi Order, like that really shook things up. Like when she got kicked out for being falsely accused of that Jedi bombing, that really shook him, and he was not the same after that. And so
you can make the same argument for Padme too, right?
Exactly, like her,
Padme was definitely very involved in his fall.
Exactly, yeah, and that's kind of the reason why they're my number 6 and 7, 6-ish slots. They just, I don't know, they're in my top, but they just couldn't make that top 5. But yeah, honorary mentions. So
I remembered what my possible 6 was.
Oh, what was that?
It was funny because we actually talked about him. It was Darth Bane.
It was Darth Bane. Okay, all right.
He created the rule of 2.
That is a big one. That is a big one. I love this. We're approaching this from 2 different angles here. Where I'm coming from the Skywalker saga kind of perspective story, and you're going at it from like a galactic history perspective. I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot of stuff today.
Whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's cool. It's so interesting. Everyone perceives Star Wars differently in different shades of light, and some people, I found Star Wars to them is like either a very particular set of films, and it might not be the whole story. And it might just be this one little chunk. Like that to them is Star Wars, right? Nothing else matters. Then
it might be that A New Hope is okay, Empire is awesome, Jedi was a step down with those Ewoks, and that's the whole saga.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. I know too many people that would fall on that boat. It's funny. But yeah, it's just it is what it is, right? And then there's some people which I could speak to about any storyline in a Star Wars game, and then that's their thing. Like that's Star Wars to them is KOTOR and the Old Republic and the Force Unleashed. Yeah, and that's Star Wars.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
Right. Yeah. So their top 5 list is going to be vastly different than mine, and it's amazing to think like this universe or this galaxy that's fictional story is just like it's such a big mythology at this point that they're really
What about Kyle Katarn?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, we could even consider the new era of the High Republic, and that also changes some things up, right? Like some characters that might have a pivotal role in taking
if Phil
on
was
the Nihil.
here, his number 1 would unquestionably be Dash Rendar.
Yeah, his number 1 would be like Dash Rendar. Yeah. Without him, we wouldn't have anything else.
That's right. Really, the true central character of this whole saga.
Yeah, to some people it might be Han Solo. Without Han Solo, like would
Luke have blown up the Death Star.
Exactly, yeah, and that it's really just it's amazing to me that this mythology is so big that there can be multiple endless top 5 most influential, because most influential describes no particular angle of looking at this story at this point. It's not just like, I have to specify, is this the most top influential 5 of this movie, of these movies and these shows, of these movies and these shows and these books, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, when does it end? It's like, well, yeah, we could look at it from a whole galactic wide perspective, and that encompasses
next year this list could be entirely different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's nice to chat about this kind of stuff with with just anyone who just kind of has any different perspective, anyone at all. Like everyone's different, right? So I loved hearing your list, and I'm curious to know if anyone listening has a very vastly different list than ours, because if anyone says, someone might say Rey is the top of their list. It's like
that's true. We didn't even touch the sequels.
Exactly. Right.
It's like Snoke's like a gray area because he's kind of is Palpatine.
Right. Yeah, but it's true. I mean, like someone might argue like, well, without Rey, the Skywalker saga would have never ended. Like
Palpatine just would have won.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So there's a lot of ways to look at that, and it just always fascinates me that we can talk about this fictional story for hours, and it just never seems to go away as far as stuff to talk about. So that being said,
It's true.
You know, we got Obi-Wan Kenobi right around the corner, and there's an incredible amount of stuff to look forward to.
It's gonna be so cool, man. I'm so stoked for that series.
Oh yeah, you know, and seeing the Inquisitors back, and you know, all that stuff. It's gonna be great to see where that goes.
Yep, and now I'm almost done Jedi Fallen Order, so I can be with you rooting that Cal Kestis hopefully has a cameo.
There you go. Yeah. Actually, next week we got a really interesting subject on the roster, which is missed opportunities, a fan list as to what we would have wanted. And I want to bring that up now because we'll figure out the details as to how we're going to come up with this list. But maybe we'll do something similar as today. But you know, that alone is just like, yeah. I mean, Cal Kestis showing up in Obi-Wan Kenobi, whether he does or doesn't, that may have been a missed opportunity if he doesn't, right?
No.
So that could be on the list. But I'm looking forward to that.
Where's Starkiller?
Exactly. Yeah, where's Starkiller? I mean, where's Star Wars 1313? Missed opportunity. I mean, there's multiple ways to decipher what a missed opportunity with Star Wars is. I'm going to be approaching that from a very in-universe angle. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to that subject. I've been looking forward to that one for a while.
It could be used very meta.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna make that joke. We're all thinking it.
Yeah. Any last minute things you want to say about Lego Star Wars or these top 5 most influential characters?
Regards to Lego Star Wars, I think the wait was worth it. When we were playing, I didn't see any bugs or anything. I thought maybe there was a bug with the Y-axis. Like X's for the joystick when you're flying ships, but it was my own mistake. So I don't see any bugs so far in this massive game. So these delays are worth it.
Yeah, no, it's been in production for years now, so it's glad to see that pay off. It's great to hear your list, top 5 most influential characters, and Blake, we'll catch you next time on the show.
Sheev's list.
All right, and thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we'd love to see those 5 stars dropped on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast app you're using. If you can share the show with a friend, leave a great review. That helps us out a lot. Looking forward to the next episode next week, and we'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you.